where you are. Yes, sir.
This is Appetite for Distortion.
Welcome to the podcast, Appetite for Distortion, episode number 267. My name is Brando, and with us today, Big Chris Flores. Thanks, Chris. You sound pretty busy there in the studio.
What's up? Oh yeah, I'm just the only guy. One person here. That's me. I'm all over the place. I'm the runner and the engineer and the producer.
I know exactly what you're talking about because I'm doing the same exact thing with this podcast and doing much of the same thing in different radio lives. But Big Chris, if you don't know, because he's worked with a lot of different artists. Maybe his dog. I don't know if his dog wants to chime in.
No, I'm locking that dog out.
Okay, because we'll see if there's an appearance by my cat, one of my 3 cats at some point. Our friends at Slash's fan page. It's run by a really cool guy, Tintan Rodriguez, and I believe he's based out of Mexico. And he shared, and he shared a clip, I guess that you found, because your background was working on Slash's first record. So to kind of get to where we're getting a teaser clip of Slash and Chester, I kind of want to get to know you a little bit, if you don't mind.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll start off by saying I'm probably the only white guy you're going to ever meet that got kicked out of Mexico for working without papers. And I used to live in Cancun, and while I was there, I played salsas, cumbias, merengues, and cha-chas on a boat in the daytime, and then we would take a nap in the afternoon, and we'd get to the club at about 11 o'clock at night, and we'd play till 2 in the morning, and then we'd party all night and barely make it to the boat the next day. And we did that for like 6 days a week for 6 years. And then I went to go fix my papers, and it turns out an ex-girlfriend of mine who hated me, her brother-in-law was the head of immigration. He's like, "Aren't you Chris Flores?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "All right, well." So they threw me in jail for 4 days and kicked me out for a year.
Is that why you go by Big Chris now? So you're trying to cover up your name and go as an alias? Not a good one, though.
Okay, so I came back to L.A. I ended up getting a degree here in music. I got some lucky gigs. I ended up working with Babyface for a year and a half, so I got to work on some Rolling Stones, and Vogue, Boyz II Men, like a lot of art from Kenny Loggins, R&B.
Cool.
It was right around when Usher got signed, so it's like just a lot of this music was all around me. So not only did I soak up like all the Latin stuff when I was in Mexico, but then I started soaking up like all this R&B. And then I was over at Babyface's for a year and a half. And then an engineer friend of mine asked me if I wanted to be the chief engineer at this place called Kingpin Records, where it was Bone Thugs and Harmony was doing their album, and some other artists that they signed. So I'll be engineering there, but there's, in the hip hop world, they're so damn late. Like they'll call you after 2 hours after they're supposed to be there to tell you they're running late. So I started learning the ropes over there. I figured, okay, I got about at least 4 hours to come up with something. So I'd write tracks while no one's there, while they're supposed to be there. You know what I mean? And then they'd show up, and I'd be doing these tracks, and they're like, "Oh man, that's a big track, man. We're gonna start calling you Big Chris." And I was like, "Oh, okay, whatever." So I came up with my email, bigchris28@yahoo.com, and then I got my first song placed in a movie, and I used Big Chris. So I just had to keep sticking with it. I got too much going on with Big Chris.
Love it. How tall are you?
Me separated from. I'm not at all. In fact, there was a girl who came by my street. She's like, "Hey, can you stand out front? I'm not familiar with the area." I was like, "Sure, I'll be out there. I'll wait for you for a few minutes." So 10 minutes goes by, and I come back in the house, and there's like all these messages, and I check, and she's like, "Hey, where the hell are you? I told you to meet me out front." So I call her back, and I was like, "Where the hell are you? I'm out front. I've been out there for the last 10 minutes. She's like, "No, you're not. There's just this long-haired white guy." And I was like, "Well, that's me."
Oh, that is too funny.
So, yeah, so I got mistaken for Big Chris a few times before they actually knew I wasn't so big.
Oh, that is amazing, because reading up on your history and having, that you work in the hip hop and R&B realm where you have
Right.
Big Pun and when I looked at your picture, I'm like, he's not that big, so there's got to be a cool story behind that.
No, but I was in the hip hop world for a while. I was the only white guy within a 10-mile radius for a good 7 years.
Was that
and I met Cedric the Entertainer,
okay,
and through a neighbor who I produced his poetry album. Turns out that it was his cousin. And Cedric, to make a long story short, came over to my house one day because he liked the album. He's like, "Hey, can you do a reggae song?" And I was like, "Sure." He's like, "All right, cool. I need it by tomorrow morning." And I was like, "Huh?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm shooting this thing tomorrow, so I just need it by tomorrow morning." So he went into the bathroom and did a bass line of his voice and left it on my I had an 8-track at the time.
Huh.
And so I ended up doing this track around it, and he ended up performing it at it was a film directed by Spike Lee. It was the original Kings of Comedy.
Okay, sure.
And it was a song that Cedric sings called Peanut Butter No Jam. So, and it went so well that they used it in a movie. He liked it, and he took me to Guitar Center one day and just spent $10,000 on me and had me. He said, "What do you need? If you can do that on 8 tracks, what do we need to get you?" So he literally he got me going. He jump started my career in TV and film, lit a fire under my ass. So yeah, so then I did that for a while, and then I met Slash at the park one day when I was taking my son to play at the playground. He was there with his son, London.
What park were you at?
It was Hazeltine Park. It's in the Valley in Sherman Oaks.
Okay, I'm a New Yorker. I don't know.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, so it was near my house. It was the closest park near my house. So, and then I thought it was actually Eddie Van Halen standing over there. So I was like, "Oh, let me go say hi." And no, it was Slash, and his son was just playing on the playground. And so my son started playing them. They were both 2 years old, both born in August, I think. And so they were playing for a little bit. And we were talking. It was right around when they were doing the Velvet Revolver album. But I think, I think that was right around that time. But fast forward a year later, when my son's starting preschool, Slash's son was going to that same preschool. So at that point, he's like, "Okay, cool." So we got, the birthday parties for the kids and stuff like that. And then one day he says, "Hey, man, do you want to score a movie?" And I was like, yeah. So he shows up at my house to score this movie with a 5-watt Marshall and his guitar on his shoulder. And I was like, "Are we going to score the movie with that?" He's like, "Yep." So we ended up doing the first song for this movie. It's called "This Is Not a Movie," and it was directed by this guy Olayo Rubio, who's from Mexico. He's got he's pretty big out there as a director, and it was the first American movie with Americans done with an all Mexican crew, and it starred Edward Furlong, kid from
Terminator 2.
Terminator,
yeah, American History.
Yeah, and it's kind of this really weird psycho trip, weird movie. But Slash ended up, we did about 20 tracks for that film, and then when we were done scoring that, he's like, "Hey, let's just go on to do this album." So that's when we did. We started going through the songs, and he was just like, "Okay, I want to get Fergie on this one." That was the first song. He's like, "Let me get Alice Cooper on that one." He's just going through, "Let me get Ozzy on that one." And everybody said, yeah. And then he's like, "Hey, let me get Chester Bennington on this one," which was demo number 3, Fast. And then, so Chester came over and he tracked those vocals, and then closer towards the end of doing the album, the Linkin Park, I guess they didn't want Chester to release anything while they were doing their album or before they released their album. So then, they end up getting Lemmy on that song, which turned out to be Dr. Alibi on his album. And so it got shelved. Chester got shelved. And then fast forward, I hope I'm kind of running through dates here. It must have been about 6 years later, I was going through old sessions that were on DVD and just getting them off DVD and into the solid state drives, and went and found, I was like, wow, well, I forgot about that one. Whoa. And so I sent it to Slash, and he's like, wow. I was like, "Hey, bro, we got to redo that. We reproduce that." He's like, "Simmer down, chill out. Let me ask." let me ask Talinda, who's his Chester's wife, and she said, yeah, she was like, yeah, we did a 3-way conversation. She was kind of wanted to release it the way it was, and I was like, no way, because that's just me playing drums on the keyboards live while Slash is playing. It's just could not let that go. So I ended up reprogramming drums. I played the bass on it, and then I kind of produced the vocals and mixed and got it finished. Sounds way, way better. Still a little demo-ish to me, but I feel like it just needs some live drums, but it sounds great anyway. And it was done, and we were just waiting for Talinda and I guess Chester's mom to get the go-ahead to release it, because Slash said he was just going to give them full reign, that's their song.
Sure.
And,
I respect that totally.
And we never heard back, right? We never heard back from Talinda's mom, and so it got shelved. It's been sitting in here on my hard drive, finished again. Well, finished without live drums, program drums, for the last year and a half. And so I guess Slash had mentioned it in a few interviews. So this last interview I did, they had, just kind of brought it up, and I asked Slash, I was like, hey, can I play a minute of that song? And he's like, I got no problem with it. And so he's like, so I called Talinda and took her a couple of days to get back to me. She's like, I got no problem with it, thanks. So that was so that's why it got released a couple of days, that minute segment.
Okay.
So I'm hoping they release it. I'm hoping they release it soon, now that it's kind of getting some, some back to life.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
I do, and there's a lot to digest there. One, before the thought is lost, and thank you for sharing that story. You did a great job telling it.
Yeah,
going to birthday parties with Slash. What's that like? Are there puppet shows going on? Is he wearing his top hat, giving out goodie bags? Is he just a normal dude?
No, he's always he's got his his hat flipped backwards, and he's just chilling. Trying to just sit in the background. He's a quiet guy. He's a very quiet guy. He's the exact opposite of his ex-wife. She was the party goer, party maker. So there was always some crazy stuff happening at the parties. But Slash was always mellow, man. He was always just sitting in the back, calm, mature while the party was raging.
and it's interesting, and I always think about this when guys like Slash, they're going to, because they're parents, they have to do the parent things, they have to do husband things. Just because you have the spotlight on them, they have to live their normal lives. So
right.
So that's why it's interesting when thinking about Slash in just like a normal setting, but when he's in those settings, he's still obviously Slash to everybody else.
But it's
right.
he's so not famous when he's like that, when he's around you, when he's over, like, 'cause I lived in the not the nicest neighborhood back then, and he would come over to the house and he'd be like, wow, I love this place. You know what I mean? It was just so out of where he's normally at. And we'd go get tacos at this taco stand, and then we'd go to the movie. We'd take the kids to the movies, or we'd take them to Jerry's Famous Deli and let the kids go play pinball while we were just sitting down there eating some salads or what, it was. And, people would come up to him, and he was really just the nicest guy. You know what I mean? He's like, he's so unsuspecting. People look at him like, oh my God, that's left. He's almost embarrassed. You know what I mean?
And he gives that off, and which I love. I love the humble rock star. I don't like the cocky rock star. That's just that's my taste. But I'm wondering, because obviously everybody wants to work with him, and it was just brought up to you. Did you think about like approaching him, like, oh my God, if I only could work with Slash? And then one day,
well, I gave him my CD when
Okay.
obviously at one of the parties. I was like, here's some stuff I produced.
Oh, okay.
Later I found out he never even listened to it.
Okay. That's what I mean. That's exactly what I mean. But I'm glad it worked out, because obviously, you spent real time with the guy, in addition to
right.
Business. But
right. I mean, at one point, my wife said, "Hey, doesn't he have any other friends?" He's like, always over here.
That's cool. That's
and one time we went to SeaWorld, actually Legoland with the kids.
Oh, okay.
And we got a hotel room and stuff like that. And my kid was really sick, and But we just, he really wanted to go. And my kid was coughing a lot. He had, he was always coughing, he was always sick when he was a little kid. And so we were on this hotel room, and he just started coughing. So I was like, I'm going to go get another hotel room with my son. And, we stayed up all night because he was coughing. But we went to Legoland the next day, and Slash was there with his son, and he's just like walking around, and my kid was coughing. He's like, "Hey, why don't you just go take my truck and get your kid to the emergency room or something like that?" And I was like, "Yeah, thank you." So I, went and took my kid to the emergency room. He stayed at Legoland with his kid. And then the next morning we went to SeaWorld. He was a really good dad. He was always present when he was around, and seemed to like hanging around the kids.
Right on. Well, thanks for sharing that, because I love those positive and just wholesome stories. To be honest with you, that's kind of the show I'd like to do. And also, thank you, because Tintin and I discussed this as well. It's a difficult topic to discuss with mental health, and it's unavoidable almost with Chester Bennington. I have spoken about him at length, and Chris Cornell at length, because I lost my dad in a similar fashion.
Oh man!
It was a year before Robin Williams, and then you have Chris Cornell in the public and Chester Bennington in the public, and it's just like you realize after I'm dealing with my stuff, but you take a step back and realize that whether you're a dentist like my dad was, or a rock star, relatively young rock star. In Chester Bennington, I think he was 41 or something like that. It seemingly had everything, all the money in the world. Everybody could be affected. So to hear, some of it's just chemical. It's out of their control. You know what I mean? It's no reason why. It comes from deep within, and and they don't understand it. And that's part of what's driving them crazy. Is like, why do I feel like this? I know.
There's no solution. You know what I mean?
I do, and thankfully I've been in therapy. But what was getting me through for so long were that's what music is for, right? And so Chester's lyrics especially.
Right. Yeah. It's a powerful message, and listening to it, it's kind of eerie. You know what I mean? It says a lot about the state of mind he was in at the time. This song, especially this song, "Crazy." Listening to it now and picturing him then, it's really sad, because he was saying a lot more than just singing a song,
So how did the process of that, song go? How did it work, and then how did it transform to Dr. Alibi? Are you able to kind of tell us how? I know why it was initially shelved, but how did Slash come up with the music, and then Chester wrote lyrics, and then he did the same thing with Lemmy?
Yeah, Slash would do, Slash would kind of when I saw, so when he would start writing, I'd be like, okay, cool, this is a cool song. But then, as the song starts forming, it's just so easy watching him, the way he records. He's got this method, and it's seamless the way he writes, and it just comes out amazing, and then he's got those Slash licks, all those melodic licks everywhere, and you're like, oh, okay, and the song is starting to sound like Slash. And then when he'd finish a song, he'd be like, I think Chester would be good for this one. So we'd just send him the demo and set up the session. Chester came in literally for probably a few hours, just recorded it, and it was hung out for a little bit, and then took off, and then that was the last of it. It just really wasn't any kind of arrangement other than, here's the song, you want to come in and sing it? Sure, I'll be there this day. All right. That's it.
Anything that you can tell us, because I was fortunate enough, it's been a couple of years, but I had Eric Valentine on the podcast, who produced Slash's first solo record, and he told us some really cool stories about seeing Chris Cornell record, Fergie record, things like that. I of Chester, how his singing, if he had any singing process.
There was one or two takes when he got here. It was nothing really to it. It was sit down. It was small talk for a little bit. Going listening to the song, and he's like, "All right, let me get in there." And he went in there. Didn't come out till he was done, and it was not that long.
Wow.
And and I was like, "Wow, this is going to be huge." And then it got shelved, unfortunately.
Well, I'm glad that you're able to share it, and hopefully, I believe to Linda, maybe she'll share it on Chester's birthday. I'm hearing,
hopefully,
or Mental Health Awareness Day, which would be great. So with your permission, maybe after this episode, I can include in this episode that minute. Would that be all right?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, cool. So
already out.
People stick around for that song "Crazy," and Chester's voice, along with the obvious, with this podcast is the Axl Rose. I mean, his voice and his lyrics have affected me. So, you coming across that is a blessing. Have you anything else in your repertoire that you remember being recorded and shelved at that time for that album?
On that album, no. Everything got everybody he wanted just got on the album and stayed. That was the only issue was with Chester's vocals in Linkin Park. And I think part of the reason why it got shelved for so long was we just out of respect, just waiting for Linkin Park to release whatever they were going to release with Chester. And then just giving to Linda and his mom, time to figure out if they wanted to do anything with it. But it just, Slash hadn't heard anything from them, and it just was forgotten about, I feel like. So, it's just perfect timing, I mean, Slash mentioned it a while ago, so, it got brought up again, and it was just a perfect opportunity, and timing to let it out a little bit,
Cool. Anything you can tell us about, because you also worked on Beautiful Dangerous, right, with Fergie and Slash?
Yeah, that was the one I have production on, yeah.
So how did that process go?
That was the first song we did for the movie, and then after after we were finished with the movie, he turned that into a full-fledged verse, chorus, hook, all that stuff, and he's like, I feel like Fergie would be good on that one, and I was like, that's interesting. So of course she came over and sat down. My wife did her nails while me and Slash were finishing up the instrumental, and she came in and she tracked actually a couple of songs, and that was the one that stuck. I believe there was I can't remember what the other one was. I think I still have that other one, which is just kind of rough drums and of course Slash's guitar on it, but okay, maybe that one's lost in the matrix. I got to find that one.
Okay. All right, good. Then I hope to hear from you again.
Wow, yeah, you jerked my memory a little bit there. I forgot about that one too.
Nice.
But yeah, that one's there, lost in the matrix.
What about, and shame on me, I know I'm like a rock guy, but I'm like you. I do have some R&B background. Right now, I have a picture of me and Keith Sweat sitting behind me. I work on his I work on his radio show actually, in addition to doing this. And I'm a Rihanna fan. That's where this is going. But I can't believe I didn't hear Rockstar 101 with Slash until today. I'm today years old. I don't know how I missed it.
Yeah, man. Not many people have. It's kind of.
I know it's famous. I'm an embarrassment. I know.
But I just don't know if that was a single. I don't even know if that was a single released. Was it?
If it wasn't a single, then I don't blame me because I only know her singles. I don't. Okay. All right.
Right. I can't remember if it was a single or not, but it wasn't a huge song, I don't think. But of course, it definitely Slash fit the picture. He never did. They asked him if he wanted to do the video, but he opted out of the video.
I was going to ask you about that because I watched the video and I'm like, where does Slash come in? And then I'm like, fast forward like you do on YouTube, and it goes that little, preview pane. And I'm like, oh, there's Slash. And then it comes to the point of the video. I'm like, oh, that's Rihanna dressed as Slash. That's okay. That's interesting.
I think that was the alternative. Yeah, that was the alternative they had.
Any stories from that whole experience working with Rihanna?
No, I can't. It was so damn long ago. It was so damn. It was at this point now. It was in 2010, 11 years ago, and I remember it was just quick. For that at that time it was they sent the session over to us, and Slash was just recording guitars on that. Okay,
cool.
Right. So I don't think Rihanna never came into the studio to record that. Yeah.
What makes you perfect to work with a guy like Slash, that he can obviously play rock and roll, then he can play with Fergie and Rihanna, is your background. So when you first started and you're working with the Bone Thugs and Harmony and Cedric the Entertainer, what was the style you grew up with? Like, where's your, would you say that you have a forte, in style of music, or you just have your hand in everything?
I think that is my forte, is it's everything. I pretty much do everything. I'm not the best at anything. I'm pretty well-rounded. I can do most genres, and I think that's kind of what what made it so easy to work with Slash, because he didn't need a band. You know, he could just write, and I pretty much knew how to program everything. I can play bass, I can play guitar. So, you know, like even one time he had Skunk Baxter from the Doobie Brothers come over to the studio, and Skunk left his pedal steel guitar there for about 6 months. And Slash was kind of trying to learn it. And one day Skunk came over and Slash, Slash was behind trying to figure this pedal steel out. And Skunk was giving him some lessons, and I was just playing rhythm guitar in the background for them so Slash could jam. Pretty cool, man. But, so it's like I play a little bit of everything. My main thing is guitar, but, doing hip hop for so long, I learned how to program, and I'm figured out, I can actually make it sound like I'm a pretty good piano player from my programming. So just all that practice made it super easy for just Slash to do his thing without having to bounce off anybody else,
So you have to have
super easy.
Everything at your disposal, obviously, at your studio, which I have failed to mention until this point, so forgive me, the Rehab Studio. So,
right. It's the most recent name is the Rehab Studio. It used to be called Mood Swing Records.
Okay.
Just whatever. I used to do when after Cedric got my song placed in that original Kings of Comedy, he went on. We ended up getting some songs in the Barbershop, the movie, and then I was just doing all this kind of music, whatever. I just had to finish a song a day. So I would just do a track a day, and it was whatever mood I was in. It might have been a hip-hop song, might have been a rock song, might have been a pop song. So I called the label Mood Swing Records. It was just easy for me to come up with, right? And then when I started working with Slash, after a while it got out, and I started getting phone calls from like every rocker you could think of, and it was like everybody who had been in rehab or who needs to be in rehab was calling me. So I was just like, you know what, I'm just going to change it to the Rehab.
I like that. That's funny. That's brilliant. Have you had?
Yeah, it worked out.
At this point, is there a track maybe that you're most proud of at this point? Because you're all over the place. You look at your resume, it's like you have a storied career, and you're still young.
All over the place.
But do you have maybe one track that you're like, wow, like this is, I can't believe I created this?
Well, for me, like where I created all of the music, I have a few of those. There's one that's getting released that's really cool, and it's really pop. It's almost like it's real pop, like I would almost release it for like the Gay Pride week over here or whatever, because lyrically it's this girl, Rosita Stone. She's a really amazing singer, and she sings a lot of like Latin stuff too, but she really liked this track, and so she's from Canada, and she sang it over there. And it's a really, really, really good song. It's it's really something that I don't normally. I do that stuff, but it doesn't ever really see the light of day. But this one, I'm really happy it's going to see the light of day. And it's almost like not reggaeton but it's got that reggaeton, but it's really pop. And it's, you look at me and you hear it, if you were to pull up next to me at a stoplight while I'm listening to that song, you would definitely do a double take. What the hell am I looking at right now? But I'm pretty proud of it, and I finished a country song with this guy, and also in Canada. I don't know what's up with Canada these days. That just got released. It's called Heaven on Earth, and that one is a really cool country song. It's got some slide guitars in there. I put some slide, and it's got a huge chorus. And so there's a couple of things that I'm really proud of, of my recent stuff, and then I've got some stuff I'm really proud of that's old too. Just off the top of my head, I can't remember the name of it. I got hundreds and hundreds of songs, literally.
Yeah, I know.
I'd have to go through them.
But so we can keep track of your current stuff that's going to come out. What's the best way to do that? Would it be added to your playlist on therehabstudio.com?
If I had a playlist, I would definitely. The rehabstudio.com, I might put it up there. Yeah.
Okay.
I know that Rosita Stone is coming out in June. I know they were going to release it on radio in June, so I'll probably put it up right after she releases that. And then this country song should be. I should put that up there. That's already out. It's on iTunes.
Cool.
And all that stuff. Yeah.
Awesome. And is the best way for people just to reach out and follow you on either the website? I know you're on Instagram as well, right?
Yeah, Big Chris Flores on Instagram and Facebook.
Cool.
And that Chris Michaels, that's the country guy, and Rosita Stone is the pop artist that's coming out. It's really good. I'm really proud of both of those.
I mean, as you should be. I mean, your resume is insane. It really is, and I love the happenstance stories. You know how Cedric took you under his wing. I mean, just to have that opportunity to work closely with a comedian.
I've been blessed, man. I've just I've been going down. I've all these roads that I've gone down in my career I've been forced to down them. I mean, I have those time capsules that you write in high school when you say what you expect yourself to be 20 years from now. And I have there, if I'm not famous by the time I'm 22, I'm a loser. That's the first thing I wrote. Yeah. And then the next one was I play guitar and I'm in a rock band. And I can't remember what I wrote after that, but I think I'm trying to live up to it still. Till the day I die, I'll be trying to live up to that.
The time capsule. Yeah, I love that. I don't know. It's probably like to fly like Superman, knowing the age or something like that.
Yeah, that might even have been a little easier. But, that's why I live in Hollywood,
True.
That's why I live in L.A. It's where, you go to the Rainbow and the person that's in the urinal next to you, that's the dude that's going to make your career happen. You know what I mean?
That can be taken a few ways, but I do know what you mean, sure.
You know what I mean? But, it's just, all the time, it's just the people around here, the lessons, the people you see just walking down the street, the people that you meet at the parties, your friends that you make, the 7 degrees, I don't even know what it is, 3 degrees of separation, 7 degrees, I don't know what degrees of separation, but there are no degrees of separation in this town. Well, especially when you're in the entertainment industry,
Yeah, absolutely. And as I use the phrase on this show, the 6 degrees of GNR bacon instead of Kevin Bacon.
There you go.
That's what I say.
Probably 6 degrees is the word.
Yeah, so you fit underneath our 6 degrees of GNR bacon, obviously working with Slash, and then we get to learn all about you and all the cool stuff that you do, just with that GNR hook. So this was a real pleasure, Big Chris, and thank you for your time and. And
thank you for having me, man. It was fun.
I hope we get to do this again, and obviously everyone stick around. We're gonna play the clip of "It's Crazy," right? Its song is called "Crazy" with Chester Bennington and Slash. It's a 1-minute preview, and I'm as confident as you are that it'll be released when the time is right. But even if it's just 1 minute, it's brilliant. It really is, and just rest in peace, Chester.
It will get released. Yeah. It'll get released. It's just. This will probably be a good little jump start for it.
Right on. Well, thank you, Chris, for finding it, and thanks again for your time.
Yeah, man, it was fun.
Well, that does it for this episode of Appetite for Distortion. Thanks again for hanging out, where we look at life through Guns N' Roses-colored glasses on this 6 degrees of GNR bacon, Guns N' Roses-themed bar mitzvah party of a broadcast. Fit that on a bumper sticker. And wherever you listen, however you listen, if you can leave a review, a rating, please do so. And thanks to those of you who have already submitted topics and questions for Doug Goldstein's autobiography, which I'm helping out on. It's going to be in his words. I'm just shaping it. We have, I want to say over 10 hours of conversation right now transcribed, and I still feel like we've barely scratched the surface. But we have a lot of great content down now, but there's so much more we haven't even spoke about. So it's going to be, it's good. It's going well. We're getting things done. We'll see what comes out first. Doug Goldstein's book or new Guns N' Roses music. We'll see. I will tell you Doug's plan and hope is for it to come out when Guns N' Roses starts touring again. However, that is not going to happen because it seems like the tour is picking up. So a little bit of quick shotgun news. Guns N' Roses announcing some festival dates. We got Bottle Rock in Napa Valley in September. I would be going. I still need to go to California in my life, and I will. But my fiance is seeing Dave Matthews that weekend. Oh yeah, she's it's hard to believe. I think she's more dedicated to Dave Matthews than I wouldn't say me, but then I am to Guns N' Roses, and I host a podcast, so she's seen them close to 40 times. I got to up that number for Guns N' Roses, so hopefully this is a good sign for North American dates, okay? I know we were heard all over the world, and we all care, but for me, I would love to, I'm holding on to my tickets for New Jersey still. Bummer if they can't reunite or have the Smashing Pumpkins open again, which was the original case. And really hoping they play Wrigley Field in Chicago. I'm going to go to Chicago in like a month or so, on vacation, and timing it out, that's when Guns N' Roses would be there. So I'm hoping that that's the case. I would love to go see them at Fenway Park as well, Boston. Oh, I'm getting excited. So it's just concerts are coming back. It's absolutely great. So there's going to be a lot of stuff to talk about in future episodes. More Shotgun news is going to happen. And just again, if you want to submit questions for the book, whenever it does come out, and it will, just hit me up on email at theafdshow on gmail.com. Okay? theafdshow@gmail.com. And I'll go over it with Doug. And if your topic and or picture, maybe you took pictures at shows and you caught Doug Goldstein in the corner of your picture, send those in, and you will be credited in the book, immortalized in Doug Goldstein's autobiography. That sounds pretty cool, right? All right, so now that does it for this episode of the podcast. Don't forget to stick around after the outro so you can hear that clip, the exclusive clip of Chester Bennington with Slash called Crazy, the unreleased track. So stick around for that. But as far as the next episode, next guest, when are you going to see it? Who is it going to be? Well, in the words of Axl Rose concerning Chinese democracy, you'll see it, I don't know, as soon as the word.
Thanks to the lame ass security, I'm going home.